Hello. Good morning. Hi. Oh, we already have a couple people signed on. That's fantastic. If you could give me a quick thumbs up, maybe introduce yourself over on the side. Um, I think I've said this before, and I've said it probably like a million times. I love doing these live chats or live streams, not just because I think that it's content that can sort of help you guys and keep you motivated, especially as you're going into sort of your dissertation season, but also because we're in this super crazy time where we're all isolated and it's really fun just to sort of like connect with you guys, have some sort of comments thrown up and people talking about what they're doing. Hello, nice to see you here. I don't know that I've seen you comment before, so it's fantastic that you're here. It's really great to just sort of like have this little conversation, and have you guys helping each other out in the comments, especially when we have the threads going in the postgrad Facebook group. So if you are in the postgrad Facebook group, be sure to look at the thread that I posted. Hey Sam, be sure to look at the thread that I posted this morning with the link to this video, and then from that thread we're going to be posting some helpful links for you. Hey Meg, nice to see you. Good morning. We'll be posting some helpful links for you, as well as like examples of things. So if you want examples of some of the terminology that I've used in a literature review, or I'm sure that other people are willing to share. Hey Nathan. So hopefully that'll be helpful and we can keep the conversation going there, because these conversations are super helpful. But during the day, the people who watch the playback who aren't quite up at 9 a.m. can go back and sort of read those. So any of my fellow PhD students, if you want to help people, hey Anna. Yes, I was fangirling about you yesterday. So you caught the live feed today so that you can hear my fangirling. It's good to see you here. I'm sure that my fellow PhD students, Meg, Nathan, Sam, Anna, are also willing to share some of their stuff. And some of today's information also came from Anna, as it did yesterday, because as I said yesterday, I am Anna's fangirl, and I do whatever she tells me to do because she is super duper smart and knows what she's doing, and she's on top of it. So I'm glad that you're here, Anna. So today, we're going to keep today quick because yesterday I went to about 20 minutes. So we're going to give you all the resources that you need to sort of go forward with the writing of the literature review. So for now, I'm just going to give you some little tips that have helped me, and some things that I've heard from other people, just to get you thinking about, as you're reading, sort of the notes that you can start taking or the sentences that you can start structuring to help with when you actually sit down to write the lit review. So before I get into that, I want to ask if we have a bunch of PhD students on. So we have more on that are watching. So if you are an MA student and you're here, or a PhD student, let me know what you're going to be doing for the next month, because we have this sort of like break period. And I know that my fellow PhD students and I will still be working. I still have a whole chapter to write. But I'm curious to know what the MA students are going to be doing for the next month or so. Are you going to start working on your dissertations? Are you going to start doing your lit reviews and your reading and your research? So let me know, because I'm curious to know what's going on. I know that a lot of people aren't really traveling. So if you're still in Wolf, maybe it would be helpful to have little virtual study groups or something. I don't know. So as I start talking about literature reviews today, I want to remind you of yesterday's live stream. So if you haven't seen that yet, be sure to go back and see that, because I sort of start talking about the notes that you should start to take and the things that you should start to think of as you get ready to do your literature review. So this is sort of going off of that. I'll repeat a couple things from yesterday, but I'm going to try to give you some more detail. But be sure that before you start writing, and again, you can start sort of like taking little notes and stuff now, but before you really start writing the literature review, be sure that you're doing all your reading, because the point of the literature review is to show that you have done all the reading around your subject. You know what everyone is saying, what everyone has said. So you know where the gap is that you can fit your new idea. So it's really important that you understand sort of the framework of what's going on, and that you understand what people are saying, and their arguments and stuff. So be sure to spend a lot of time with your reading and really digesting what people are saying. And then when you get to the literature review, it's going to be so much easier. So do go back and watch yesterday's live stream about what sort of stuff to look out for in what you're reading and what kind of notes to take to help with the actual literature review. So one of the links that we're going to put into the postgrad Facebook group is the link to the graduate school's workshop on writing literature reviews, which is really helpful, which I'm sure they're doing digitally now, because they want to make sure that especially first years have access to that on how to write your literature review. So be sure that you see that. I've taken little pieces of that and little pieces from some of the advice from my supervisor and of course from Anna that have helped me. So let's talk about how you're going to structure your literature review. So once you've done all of your reading and you have a really good grasp of the field and you've taken your sort of your key notes from your readings, so you know what all the people's arguments are, you know sort of who has built on whose argument and sort of how they've built through time. So like for me, I do mostly Shakespeare stuff and there's not a whole lot new to talk about with Shakespeare, but I would say that sort of my oldest sources tend to be about 100 years old, like sort of my secondary critical sources. And so I have a lot of people referencing like W.W. Lawrence, like back in like 1912 or whatever. So I have to be sure that I go back and see what he's saying because he was the foundation of everything. So be sure that you're taking those original theorists that a lot of the people you're reading about are referencing. Go back and read their stuff so you understand what everything's has a foundation in. And that's where you're going to start your literature review if you're doing it chronologically, which is usually helpful for me so that I can see sort of the timeline of how everything went. You can also do it by theme. I'll talk about that in a second, but I think chronologically is usually best when you're first starting out. So one of the sort of techniques that I started using was just simple little note cards. And I think there are a couple other MEMS PhDs who do this as well. And I try to be really simple about it. So I'll just take a note card as I'm reading. I'll write who the author is, and I'll just say what their argument is. Blah, blah, blah argues that. And then like maybe a note on he borrowed this idea from this person. He built on this. This is what he brought that's new. So I can see sort of like in a weird little annotated note form what his literature review is, because if you're reading articles, they will always do a little literature review at the beginning so that you can see where they got sort of built on their thing. So have a little note card for each of the readings that you've done, each of the theorists that you're working with, each of the critics that you're working with, so that you can sort of lay them out and get a sense of the timeline of how everybody built on everybody and where people sort of went off course and started their own thing, but based on this first thing. So that's really helpful. So get yourself some note cards and do that. And then some key phrases that I use a lot in my literature reviews that sort of help me bounce from person to person are things like theorist 1 builds on theorist 2. Adding da 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 da. So what did that person add to this argument? So there's a nice little sort of segue into a different theorist. You can also say things like theorist number 1 disagrees with theorist number 2, attesting that da 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 instead of, and this is his argument, this is why. You can also say things like theorist 1 takes this idea from theorist 2, but changes or adds this or dissents in this way. And that way you're adding different names to the same sentence. So you're really showing how those people are working together and that you understand the ways that what they're saying is the same, and then the ways that what they're saying is different. So those are some key phrases, and I'll be sure to put those in the Facebook group that you can sort of use as a model, as like a little framework, so that you can start using your note cards to say, well, this person agrees with this person, but adds this person disagrees because of this, and really start to build that tower and that chronological timeline where you were at the end saying, okay, all this has happened, and maybe I agree with this or that, but this is what's new for me. And the way that you do that, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, a really easy framework for that are a couple keywords. So you've done your sort of, this person said this, and this person said that, and this person changed this. So that's your first part of it. And then you hinge on the word however. So after the however, you're saying, but this is what all these people sort of missed. This is what hasn't really been considered yet. And this is why it's important. And then your next hinge word is therefore. So the framework, however, this is what they've missed. Therefore, I argue that, or I am suggesting that, or I am going to look at this. And that's a nice little 3-part thing for you to think of to sort of transition into your intro after you've built the foundation of this is where everything has been so far. This is what they've missed. This is what I'm adding that's new. So keep those keywords in mind, the however and the therefore. And of course, you can change those when you get to the final thing, but they're nice little markers for you as you're writing to make sure that you're hitting those key points. The other way to do it is to organize by theme. So like I brought up before, and I brought the example today because I didn't have the example yesterday. This is the notebook that I used for my MA dissertation that I talked about a little bit yesterday. So I had everything set out into those notes are going to be distracting. I had everything set out into the sort of the different themes that I was talking about. So I have Pollard is a critic that I used a lot in my dissertation. So I had a whole section dedicated to her because I sort of used her as a foundation for a lot of my arguments. But I have all of the different themes that I was talking about. I don't know if you can read them, if this is mirrored or not. And then in those themes, I had sort of the key articles I was using, a lot of my notes, and that way, if I was organized by theme, I could sort of talk about what theme built on what. So sort of maybe the first person to talk about this when it came to Shakespeare studies or early modern drama was this person, or this is the key critic that I'm using. And this is how everyone else's research in more defined sort of themes adds to what this person was saying, or builds on what this person said, or helps lead this person. So that's another way to sort of do it, is have like one main sort of person who you're sort of building on, and then talk about how all these different themes have different critics that feed into what sort of this main thing is. So that's another way to think about it, which was really helpful for me when I was doing my master's dissertation, because I had so many different sort of keywords and themes that I was working with. It was hard for me to talk about that all chronologically, because I'd be like, well, when it comes to the medical stuff on the Shakespearean stage, there are all these critics. But when it comes to the poison stuff, there are all these critics. So how can I talk about how they're building on each other when they're talking about two completely different things? So if you want to do that, sort of pick one foundation, one keyword, one key critic that you're using, and then talk about how everything else feeds in. Sam says that she has notebook envy and regret your choice for digital note taking. Well, you know what? Different strokes for different folks, man. Do what works for you. I have both. So this was really helpful for me during my master's dissertation because it was a smaller project. But now I have to basically write 6 of these for my PhD thesis. So that's just a little bit too much, unless I have like one of these for each one of my chapters. But so Sam, for your PhD, it's not a huge deal. It's probably better to keep them digital because you're going to have so much information. So those are sort of my key things to think about when structuring your literature review. And I think we might do a more in-depth, maybe pre-produced video on how to write a literature review, because it's going to be a little bit easier to sort of like insert screenshots with examples for that. And it's probably going to be more than like the 10 to 15 minutes I try to keep these live streams to. So I hope that those are good sort of key aspects to think of when getting ready to write your literature review. Of course, if you have any questions, please let me know. You can post it in the comments of this video. After it's aired, I always go back and answer those comments. You can also post it on the thread in the private postgraduate Facebook group, where we will put examples and links and stuff like that. I'll put a link to the grad school's workshop and maybe some examples of some of my wording. And again, like I said yesterday, if you want to see a copy of a literature review that I've written or a critical survey that I've written, I'm more than happy to share that to give you some ideas of sort of how to phrase things. One of the things that my supervisor told me as I was writing my critical survey for my PhD was, she was like, keep an inventory, like keep a list of sort of like the really interesting sentences people have used or the way that they've worded things. And she was like, borrow them. Like, who cares? Like, if they've worded something really effectively, go ahead and borrow that phrasing, because it's going to be helpful for you as you go forward to have sort of like a bank of those phrases. And for me, some of that was, this person builds on this person, adding this. This person disagrees with this person and attests that. This person takes this idea from this person but changes. So those are just some key phrases that you can just sort of keep weaving in that keep you on track as you're getting it structured, and you can always go back and change it so it sounds more eloquent. But those things are good to begin with. So I hope that was helpful. I went way over yesterday, so I'm going to try to keep it short today. If this is helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. And also, if you have yet to subscribe, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because my analytics say that about half the people who watch the videos aren't actually subscribed. So if that's you, I invite you please to subscribe, because once we get to 100 subscribers, we can get that like custom URL thing. And I'm really nerding out about that. I'm really excited. So yes, please do that if you haven't already. And I will see you. I have 2 more live streams. So tomorrow, Thursday, and the last one on Friday. And then I'm going to let you go for your break. And again, please let me know what you're doing for your break, because I'm curious to know who's going to be working and who's going to be actually taking a rest. And of course, my fellow PhDers, we don't really get to take rests. So I feel you. I'm in your corner. I believe you. And also, because I'm such a fangirl, I need you to know that Anna's birthday is on Friday, and I want everyone to give her some love and some messages on Friday. And I definitely will be, because she's super helpful and supportive. And I appreciate her. She won like 3 teaching awards. Can I just brag about you for a second, Anna? You won 3 teaching awards. That's how, like, I just want you to know that you were doing a great job. And I appreciate you. And I'm sure that a lot of the MEMS people appreciate you as well. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to give it a subscribe. And I will be back tomorrow with, I already know what I'm talking about tomorrow, but I haven't written another notebook, and I'm not going to take your time while I try to find it. So anyway, Anna says she's blushing right now. Emerald, wow, that's amazing. Yes, it is amazing, Anna. Anna works really hard, and she's also just very supportive of her peers and her fellow PhD students, and I think that that deserves recognition, because as I say a lot, we're all in this together, and teamwork makes the dream work. And let's be sure that we're supporting each other and helping each other through, because it's not a competition. We're all here to help each other. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Wednesday, a great little hump day, all you cool cats and kittens. And if you haven't watched Tiger King yet, go watch it. It's madness. I started watching RuPaul's Drag Race, which Neil's never seen before, and he's just mind blown. So that's what we're doing in the evenings. So Tiger King, Drag Race, whatever floats your boat. Anyway, I will see you later. Have a fantastic day. Bye.